Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Professor Anbani, and I have read the ancient scrolls, and I am now enlightened. And today, I come to you with an actual useful video. That's right. Today, I want to talk a little bit about spell hit, spell resist, spell penetration, and hit cap in PvP in Classic WoW, because that is a clusterfuck, but I kinda got it, and I think it's really important, especially if you're a caster. So let's get to it, but before that, little message from our sponsor. Hit it! Ladies and gentlemen! The most ambitious RPG project of 2019 has just been released. Raid Shadow Legends can only really be compared with the biggest PC and console titles, and the best part? It's totally free. Raid has an amazing storyline, awesome 3D graphics, giant boss fights, PvP battles, and hundreds of champions to collect and customize, choosing their artifacts and creating a unique mastery build for each one of them. Over 10 million players worldwide have already downloaded the game in less than 6 months, and with over 300,000 reviews, Raid has almost a perfect score on the Play Store. So obviously it's growing super fast, and the highly anticipated new Faction Wars feature is now live, which I'm personally down for any time. You can find me in-game under the nick Anbani, by the way. Also, there is a new awesome rewards program for new players. Get your new daily login rewards for the first 90 days in the game. My personal favorite thing about the game is that you always have something to do, whether you have 5 minutes or 5 hours to play. So what are you waiting for? Go to the video description, click on the links, and you will get 50,000 silver and a free epic champion as part of the new player program to start your journey. Good luck, and I'll see you there. Alright students, what do you do when you get hit with a spell? There are 3 outcomes. Number 1, there is a full hit. You take the full effect and the full damage. Number 2, there is a partial resist, where you take some damage but mitigate a portion thanks to your spell resistance, and this only applies to damage only spells. We'll get to that. And number 3, a total resist, where the spell essentially misses either because of a talent, level difference, or spell resistance. The confusion comes from using the same word, resist, for both these effects. So I'll call it a full resist or a miss if it's a full resist. And if it's a partial resist, I'll call it a partial resist. In Classic, no matter how much plus spell hit you stack, you can never go above 99% chance to hit. So no matter what a target, regardless of level, will always have at least a 1% chance to fully resist your spells or your spells to miss, whatever you want to call it. Now, a level 60 player versus another level 60 player has a base chance to hit with a spell of 96%. Meaning that, not taking into account any talents or resistances, the PvP hit cap would be 3%, taking it to 99%, which is essentially the hard cap, since, like I said, you can't go over 99%. Now, there are some talents, such as a priest's unbreakable will, or a rogue's heightened senses, which will increase their chance to fully resist the spell, making plus hit over the 3% cap very valuable in those scenarios. And now I'm gonna talk about the 2 big types of spells, binary and non-binary, and this is where the juicy info comes, so we're gonna get very technical, so pay attention. Number 1, the non-binary spells. Non-binary spells are spells that essentially just deal damage. There are pure damage spells like Shadow Bolt, Mind Blast, Fireball, things that just deal damage and that's it. They can be partially resisted by the effect of resistance on your gear, or they can be fully resisted or missed by just being a higher level or being very lucky. Let's take an example here. We have a Shadow Priest with 5 points into Shadow Focus, which is a very good idea by the way, and 20 spell penetration. And this priest is going to Mind Blast a rogue with 2 out of 2 heightened senses and 100 shadow resist. What a scumbag. So, we have 96% base hit chance versus level 60 target. 5 points into Shadow Focus means plus 10 hit. 96% plus 10, that is 106%. 106% minus the 4% from Heightened Senses means there is a 102% chance to hit. However, since spell hit is hard capped at 99%, 3% is essentially wasted in this situation. The Mind Blast will have a 99% chance to hit, and the spell resistance does not influence its chance to hit. After this calculation is done, if the spell manages to hit, which it probably will, the second calculation based on resistance gear and spell penetration is made to determine how much damage the rogue actually takes. Since the rogue has 100 shadow resistance and the priest has 20 spell penetration, we have 100 minus 20. How much is that? You in the back, Billy?
70.
No, that's 80 resistance. So the rogue is left with essentially 80 resistance. 80 shadow resistance averages in a 20% damage mitigation from most shadow spells over time. So the rogue has a very chance of taking only 75% of the Mind Blast damage. Sometimes he will take the full hit, and sometimes he will resist 50% of its damage. Pure damage spells can be resisted for 0%, 25% at 100 resistance, 50% at 200 resistance, 75% at 300 resistance, or 100% of their regular damage. 300 resistance is the maximum cap versus a level 60 target, and it will result in a 75% damage reduction from a spell on average, with a good chance of resisting the entire spell or 50% of its damage. Basically, you want to visualize it as a bell curve around your average resistance. So if you have 200 resistance, which is 50%, then on average you will resist 50% of the damage. Sometimes you'll resist 25, sometimes you'll resist 75, but on average it's gonna be 50%. And that's it. That's it with the non-binary spells. Very simple, right? Very simple. Now, here comes the juice, the binary spells. And this is where a lot of guides have it wrong, in my opinion. So, binary spells. Binary spells are spells that can only be either a full hit or a complete miss. Some examples would be most crowd control spells, like Counterspell, Fear, Polymorph, Death Coil, Silence, but also, for some reason, spells that have a CC baked into them. So, stuff like Mind Flay, Mana Drain, and Life Drain, they're all binary as well, but also all the Frost spells that the Frost Mage has. So Frostbolt is binary, Cone of Cold is binary, and Frost Nova is binary. So, and in the case of binary spells, the resistance on your gear will increase the chance of the spell missing entirely, which is very important. Let's take the same example of the Shadow Priest with 5 points into Shadow Focus and 20 spell penetration, trying this time to fear the same rogue with 2 out of 2 heightened senses and 100 Shadow Resist. So first of all, it's gonna look very similar. We have 96% base chance to hit versus a level 60 target, plus 10% from Shadow Focus, minus 4% from heightened senses. That gives us the same 102% chance to hit. So far everything's the same. However, since Fear is a binary spell, there is a second calculation being made at this point, and since the rogue has 100 shadow resistance, which would be 25% mitigation from non-binary spells, it becomes 25% chance to miss in the case of binary spells. While spell hit essentially works as spell penetration, because we will start off from 102% chance to hit. So we have 100 resistance, minus 20 from spell penetration. That leaves us with 80 resistance, which becomes on average 20% chance to fully resist the fear. So we have 102% chance to hit, aka 1.02, times 0.80, which is 80% chance to hit because of resistance, which results in a 0.816, aka a 81.6% chance for the fear to hit, which is obviously a way higher chance of missing the spell than it was previously even though we have the exact same players with the exact same stats, we had a 99% chance for the Mind Blast to hit, except its damage might have been a little reduced. Whereas with the Fear, there is a 81% chance for the Fear to actually hit, and a 20% for the Fear to actually miss, which is quite a big difference if you ask me. If the Priest had 0 hit, if the Priest put 0 points into Shadow Focus, it would be something like 96% from the level, minus 4% equals 92%, times 0.8, that would be a 73.6% chance for the Fear to hit. So you can see how in the case of binary spells, spell hit becomes way more important. So what does it all mean? Well, essentially, if you're a class that relies heavily on binary spells, for instance a Frost Mage, you might want to consider using more hit than normal, since hit essentially works as spell penetration for you. If you're fighting a class that relies heavily on binary spells like a Frost Mage, then using Frost Resistance against that type of a class would help you a lot more than wearing, let's say, Shadow Gear when fighting a Warlock or a Shadow Priest. And one more thing that I wasn't sure if I want to mention, but here you go. Damage over time effects don't get affected by resistance in any way at all. And that's pretty much it. I hope you guys found this video useful. And if you have any questions, I am live on Twitch almost every day, or you can just ask me down in the description. Again, I'll have links to all my sources down in the description, so you can check them out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya!